So, class, this is the second part on the discussion of electrochemistry. Last time, we ended with this lesson where we introduced the standard cell potential. Right now, the second part will involve the relationship of the electromotive force, or also known as the standard cell potential, with the free energy, with the concentration of the products and the reactants, as well as we will be looking at how batteries are function and their parts. And then the last part of this lesson will be focused on electrolysis, where we will be looking at um, important examples of how electrolysis is applied in the real setting. So when we talk about electromotive force and free energy, it is important to remember that chemical energy is converted to electrical energy. And this is to do electrical work such as running an electric motor. So electrical energy is therefore a product of the EMF of the cell, which is the standard cell potential or the electromotive force, which has a unit of volts, and the total electric charge, which is a unit of coulomb. So when we multiply coulomb with the EMF of the cell, we get 1 joule. So the total charge is determined by the number of electrons that pass through the cell. So for every number of electrons times the charge of one electron, that is equivalent to one charge. Okay, so that's a little bit of relationship with regards to the units. In electromotive force, it's more convenient to express the total charge in molar quantities. And so therefore, we have what we call as the Faraday constant, F, which is the charge of one molecule, 1 mole of electrons. As we can see from the conversion factors here, we have that 1 mole, 1 Faraday is equal to 9.647 times 10 raised to 4 coulomb per mole of electrons. We get this by having 6.022 times 10 raised to 23 electrons per mole of electrons times 1.602 times 10 raised to negative 19 coulombs per electron. Because of this, the total charge can now be expressed as NF, where N is the number of moles of electrons exchanged between the oxidizing agent and the reducing agent. So, the total measured EMF, okay, the measured EMF or E cell is the maximum voltage the cell can achieve. So therefore, what we see in a voltmeter, okay, yung lumalabas sa voltmeter na voltage is the maximum voltage na yung hypothetical galvanic cell mo can achieve. So dito masasabi natin na yung electrical work done, which is W elect, which is the maximum work that can be done, is given by the product of the total charge and the EMF of the cell. So notice that W max is equal to W elect, meaning the electrical work that can be done by your cell is also part equal to the maximum work that can be done by the cell itself. And if we multiply it with the total charge and the EMF of the cell, we are also getting the maximum work that the cell can have. So from here, if we will now place the parameters and variables of free energy in electromotive force, we can say therefore that the change in free energy represents maximum amount of useful work. And dahil sinabi natin kanina na yung nami-measure ng voltmeter, which is the work that is electrical work that is done by the galvanic cell, okay, is also equivalent to the maximum amount of work that the galvanic cell can have. So we are saying that delta G, or the free energy, is also equal to the maximum amount of work that your cell can have. So removing this by using this equation, tong relationship na to, we can therefore say that delta G is equal to negative NFE of the cell. The negative here, okay, the negative sign in this NFE of the cell connotes that the work done, okay, that the work done here is done by the system to the surroundings. Your system is your galvanic cell. The surroundings are the anodes and all of the other ions that exist within the galvanic cell. And also, the negative sign will pertain to delta G being spontaneous process. So, pag negative ang delta G, if you can recall dun sa lesson natin sa free energy, pag negative ang delta G, it means that the process or the reaction being described to is spontaneous on the direction that it was given. It is also important to note that N here, okay, is a positive number without units, and it represents the number of moles of electrons transferred according to the balance equation for the reaction. Kaya mahalaga na before tayo nakarating dito sa lesson na to, is nagkaroon tayo ng pagbabalance ng redox reaction because through the balancing, we will get to see how many electrons was released through oxidation and how many electrons was absorbed through reduction. Okay. So in relation to that, we have two forms of um, of the free energy and its relationship to the electromotive force. So for a spontaneous reaction, we know that delta G is negative. Because of this, both N and the Faraday's constant are positive, and also the E cell. Okay? Now, if we are talking about standard states, no, yung standard conditions na sinabi ko noong nakaraan, if we will now have delta G super zero, and then yung electromotive force natin will also be in the standard state. Remember, na kapag sinabi nating standard states sa electrochemistry, we are talking about na dapat 1 atmosphere yung pressure, tapos 25 degrees yung temperature, and 1 molar yung concentration ng products and reactants. Kapag hindi po naka 1 molar or kahit isa doon sa tatlong condition na yon ang hindi nasunod, we are not measuring the free energy of the cell in standard conditions. Okay? So, ang nagbago lang dito sa dalawang equation na to is if we are in the standard states, then we are we have delta G super zero is equal to negative N F E super zero of the cell. Okay, so let's remember this as equation 1 and 2. So recall also that nung lesson natin sa Gibbs free, yung standard free energy change, okay, is related to its equilibrium constant K. And K is defined as uh, we will define K later. And as you can see, delta G, now from the equation, delta G is equal to RT ln of K. If we combine yung equation 2, if we combine equation 2 to this equation, substituting delta G super zero with negative NFE delta at NFE super zero, if we divide, if we want to look for E of the cell, the electromotive force of the cell, then we have RT over NF ln of K, which is an equation that relates the equilibrium constant, the free energy, and the electromotive force with each other. So this is one of the equations that is very useful in calculating the standard cell potential of a galvanic cell if we are dealing also with the thermodynamics and equilibrium limitations of thermodynamics. So at standard conditions, we have here where K is, if we have an equation, a chemical reaction in this way, na redox reaction, we say that K is basically the concentration of your products raised to their coefficients, stoichiometric coefficients, divided by the product of your reactants concentration raised to their stoichiometric coefficients. So remember, kapag nakakita po kayo ng mga substances na nasa loob ng bracket, let's say for example, H+, this means that this is measured in 1 molar or in molar concentration. Okay? 1 molar, or they are expressed in molar concentration. Okay? So in this smaller concentration, if we incorporate it on our equation of the E cell, we can see that concentration also affects the standard cell potential. Okay? And as what we have said kanina, the maximum electrical work that can be provided by a galvanic cell is equal to the free energy that the galvanic cell possess. Okay? So yeah. So when we substitute 298 Kelvin in our equation, we get an equation of a simplified version of having 0.0257 volts over N of ln of K para nababawasan yung ating mga inaalalang equation, then we'll just have this equation na nabigay na sa atin yung value ng RT and then RT over F. And that gives us 0.0257 volts. If we change yung natural logarithm into the base 10 logarithm of K, then we will just have to have a different conversion factor, and then this is going to be our equation for the relationship of EMF, free energy, and the equilibrium constant. Ito. So that's for the relationship of the electromotive force, the free energy, and then the equilibrium constant. So this is a simple diagram showing the relationship of the three variables. If we wish to calculate the E cell from delta G, then you use this equation of delta G is equal to NFE of the cell. If you wish to calculate the equilibrium constant given yung E cell mo, then you can use yung RT over NF ln of K or yung simplified version of 0.0257 volts over N ln of K. And if you wish to solve for the equilibrium constant when you have a given of the standard free energy, then that's negative RT ln of K. Again, take note that the negative sign here pertains that if the work that is the delta G that you were able to solve is negative, then it means that the process is spontaneous. This is the relationships of EMF as summarized in a table. As we can see, it shows here that if your delta G is negative, then your K is greater than 1, then it should be that your E cell is positive. If this is the case, the reaction will favor the formation of your products. If delta G is 0, that means K is equal to 1, and then E cell is also equal to 0, then reactants and products are equally favored. And this is when the system has reached equilibrium. Equilibrium. Okay. Now, if your delta G is positive and then K is less than 1, E cell is negative, then it favors the formation of the reactants. Okay, that's how we can summarize these relationships between EMF, free energy, and then the equilibrium constant. So, let's illustrate these relationships of equation through a problem. So it says here, calculate the equilibrium constant K for the following reaction at 25 degrees Celsius. So the first thing that we'll have to do, since we are asked to calculate for K, if we're looking at the relationship, we're asked to calculate for K. We were not given any delta G. The easiest thing that we can calculate and solve would be the E cell. So for us to determine the E cell, we'll have to separate this equation into the oxidation and then reduction half reaction. The one oxidation occurring in the anode and then reduction occurring in the cathode. So we have illustrated that last time, and it's easy to see that from tin solid to 2 plus, tin here has undergone oxidation. So therefore, in our anode, where oxidation occurs, it is tin solid that undergoes the oxidation. And then our cathode, where reduction occurs, is essentially would be yung 2 copper plus ions plus we also have 2 copper plus. So kung makikita natin, para mabalance yung mga charges, we'll need to add 2 electrons here so that the total number of charges on both sides would be 0. And then on the other side, on the reduction side or on the cathode, we'll also have to add 2 electrons to balance the number of charges. If we look at on the table, if we would look at on the table of standard reduction potentials, I mean the one that I showed you, we will see that the E cell or the standard reduction potential of this one would be it for the tin, we have negative 0.14 volts. And then for copper, that is 0.15 volts. Okay. So from here, we can now solve for the standard cell potential, and that is the standard reduction potential of the cathode minus the standard cell potential of the reaction happening on the anode. So from our cathode, that is 0.15 volts minus negative 0.14 volts, which gives us an E cell of 0.29 volts. Since it is positive, then we can say therefore that this process is spontaneous. And we don't stop there. Now that we have yung E cell, we can now solve for the equilibrium constant. Now using yung formula natin ng E cell is equal to uh, 0.0257 volts over N ln of K. Since we're looking for ln of K, then ln of K is equal to Ne over 0.0257 volts. Okay, so nire-arrange lang natin. So from here, we can see, doon po sa ating equation, titignan natin ilang electrons yung na-release sa oxidation at ilang electrons naman yung na-gain sa reduction. So as we can see, there are 2 electrons. Okay? So yung N natin dito will be 2. Okay? So that's 2 times yung ating na-calculate na E cell is equal to 0.29 volts. So we can write 0.29 volts divided by 0.0257 volts. Okay? And this should give us 22.6. Okay? So then that's equal to ln of K. So in order to get rid of the natural logarithm, K is equal to E raised to 22.6. And K is a unitless quantity. And we get, in placing this in our calculator, you should be able to get 7 times 10 raised to 9. So this is the equilibrium constant K of this reaction. Now, tignan natin, no? Sabi, kapag ka ang E mo ay positive, tapos ang K ay greater than 1, dito, no? Positive siya, greater than 1 yung K, then we would assume that delta G super zero will also be negative. And if we will be looking at it, sabi dito, this favors the formation of the products. Ibig sabihin, from this very reaction, spontaneously magtutuloy-tuloy ito at ito ang mas pabor na mabuo. No? Yung mga nasa product side natin, ang mas pabor na mabuo kesa sa mga nasa reactants when it reaches equilibrium. Okay? So yan. So another problem. Another problem naman, we are asked to find, no, calculate yung standard free energy change naman of the following reaction at 25 degrees. Kanina, ang pinapahanap sa atin yung equilibrium constant. Ngayon, ang hinahanap naman ay standard free energy. So in this case, ganun ulit, we'll have to separate sino ang nag-undergo ng oxidation at sino ang nag-undergo ng reduction. No? And dito sa oxidation natin, makikita natin na si gold mismo, from 0, yung kanyang oxidation number, siya ay naging positive 3. So doon pa lang makikita natin na si gold dito ay nag-undergo ng oxidation. So we can write directly na yung nangyayari sa anode, which is oxidation, ay yung sa gold, then na-oxidize siya into gold 3 plus. Okay? Then, yung sa cathode naman is yung natitirang species. No, yung natitirang species naman ay yung dalawang calcium ion, yung 3 calcium ions. Okay? And then, siya ay na-reduce into a calcium solid. So, dito pa lang, makikita natin, ang charge dito sa left side ay 0, dito positive 6. Ah, so dapat magdagdag tayo dito ng 6 na electrons para mabalance yung charge. Ganon din po sa reduction, kailangan din magdagdag ng 6 na electrons. If you would again look at in the table ng standard reduction potential, yung mga standard reduction potentials nito ay for the anode that is 1.50 volts, tapos yung sa cathode naman ay negative 2.87 volts. Okay? Then, we can now solve for the standard cell potential nitong galvanic cell na ito, hypothetical galvanic cell. So again, you need the standard reduction potential ng reaction na nangyayari sa cathode minus yung standard reduction potential ng reaction na nangyayari sa anode. So that is for the cathode, that is negative 2.87 volts minus 1.50 volts naman yung sa anode. This gives us a total of negative 4.37 volts as the standard cell potential. Pansinin natin, negative na po yung nakuha natin na standard cell potential. Okay? So from there, we can use this value to solve naman. Given yung relationships natin dito, we are being asked to find delta G and we can easily solve for E cell. So ang gagamitin nating equation ay si delta G is equal to negative NFE of the cell. So using that equation, we use delta G is equal to negative NFE of the cell. Okay? So yung delta G natin, yun yung hinahanap based from the reaction natin. Meron tayong 6 na electrons na nagamit. So yung N natin would be 6, and then yung Faraday's constant will be 96,500 joule per volt mole. Please remember that. That's going to be the easiest na conversion factor na pwede natin gamitin as the value of the Faraday's constant. And then we multiply yung nagamit natin na E cell ay yung na-solve nating E cell, which is negative 4.37. So negative 4.37 volts. So this should give you 2.53 times 10 raised to 6 joule per mole, or simply 2.53 times 10 raised to 3 kilojoules per mole, which is basically yung unit pa rin ng Gibbs free energy. So ano ibig sabihin nito ngayon? Ibig sabihin po niyan, dahil yung delta G natin ay positive, tapos yung ating standard cell potential ay negative, ibig sabihin itong reaction na to, hindi siya spontaneous on the direction that it was given. Kaya, saan siya spontaneous? Spontaneous siya, sabi nga dito, pag positive to at negative to, ang spontaneous dito would be yung reverse direction. It will favor yung production, yung creation ng mga ng reactants mo kaysa sa mga products. So, mas favorable yung reverse of the direction nito kasi yung na-calculate natin delta G ay positive, tapos yung na-calculate natin na standard cell potential ay negative. Okay, so that's how um we interpret the data that we were able to calculate. Okay, so yeah. So those are the examples of sample problems that will involve yung calculations ng EMF and its relationship with the free energy and equilibrium constant. Now, all of this, guys, itong mga calculations na nagawa natin so far are assumed to be in the tawag dyan, are assumed to be in our standard conditions. Meaning, 25 degrees Celsius, 1 atmosphere, at saka 1 molar yung mga concentration. So, paano kung hindi na 1 molar? So, this is where we will see yung effect na ng concentration sa cell electromotive force. So, kadalasan kasi in real setting sa laboratory, mahirap ma-maintain ang standard state conditions. So, kailangan meron tayong equation na magre-relate sa EMF ng isang galvanic cell sa concentration ng reactants and products sa hindi standard conditions. And dito papasok yung tinatawag natin na equation of Nernst equation. Ito po ang Nernst equation. As we can see, we have E, meaning the cell potential that is not in standard conditions. We need yung standard cell potential. And then this is, of course, the gas constant, the temperature, the N, at saka yung Faraday's constant, as well as we multiply it on the ln of Q. Ano si ln of Q? Recall lang natin na si K ba? Siya yung equilibrium constant na tinatawag. Si Q po ang tinatawag nating reaction quotient. Si reaction quotient, siya yung mga concentrations, no? So, di ba ganito yung um, sa K. Yan. If this is for K, ah, Q will then be simply yung concentrations nitong mga to, no? When initial concentrations or even before the equilibrium has happened. Habang papunta yung reaction mo into equilibrium, ano yung mga concentrations ng reactants and products mo? Ano yung initial concentrations nila? Yun po ang reaction quotient. Now we get the ratio of these concentrations and then we get yung reaction quotient. But if you're talking about yung concentration at equilibrium, then we will be using si K. So dahil nga hindi ito naka-standard conditions, then we will assume that the condition is not also, the reaction has not reached equilibrium. So instead of K ang gamitin natin, we will be using Q. And we call this the Nernst equation. So, paano nakuha si Nernst equation? So, for example, we consider a redox reaction in this form. So, first, we will utilize this equation, which is familiar, and we were able to see this in the lesson in Gibbs free energy. And then, since delta G is equal to NFE, and then delta G super zero is also NFE, no, yun yung pinakita ko kanina, we can substitute this on both delta G and delta G super zero, and we get this. If we divide both sides by NF, then we get simply, so ito cancel, and then maka-cancel din ito, and then what's left is going to be E is equal to E super zero minus RT over NF ln of Q. So ganun ulit, okay? At 298 degrees Celsius, no, at 298 Kelvin rather, we get na yung E minus 0.025 7 volts over N ln of Q. Or if we want to change yung ln of Q into base 10 logarithm, then that's going to be E super zero minus 0.0592 volts over N log of Q. So these are two variations on the equation, or on the Nernst equation. So as we will be, hindi na tayo mahirapan na mag-solve pa nung RT and F. So what's left is only for N, no? Simplified. So the Nernst equation is used to calculate the EMF of the cell under non-standard conditions. And then the reaction quotient expresses the concentrations of products and reactants before the system reaches equilibrium. So therefore, yung initial concentrations nila bago magkaroon ng equilibrium yung system mo. So that's the reaction quotient. So katulad ni K, di ba, si K, may Kc siya, which is expressed in concentration. May Kp siya, which is expressed in partial pressures. Ganon din po kay Qc. Meron din siya expressed in concentration, pero initial. And then meron din pong Qp, which are also expressed in pressures, initial pressures naman, nung mga species na meron. Remember na ang nilalagay lang natin sa Kc and Kp sa Kc are the gases and the aqueous substances. Hindi po kasama ang solid and liquid dyan. Sa Kp naman, gases lang. Ganon din po sa Qc, gases and aqueous substances lang po ang sinasama sa QC expression. And then sa Qp, only those that are gases. So solids and liquids, hindi po kasama sa equilibrium expression at saka sa reaction quotient expression. Okay, so please do remember that as we expand this problem later on. So yan, so sabi dito, predict whether the following reaction would proceed spontaneously as written at 298 Kelvin. So may binigay ulit sa ating redox reaction. And binigay sa atin yung concentration ng cobalt 2 plus at saka ng iron 2 plus. Notice sila lang po ang binigyan ng concentration kasi solid na yung iba at hindi natin sila sinasama sa equation natin ng reaction quotient. Okay? And aside from this, we are also tasked, no, before we can solve using yung equation natin, ang unang dapat natin gawin ulit is i-check kung sino nag-undergo ng oxidation saka reduction. Kasi paghihiwalayin natin ulit yung anodic reaction at saka yung cathodic reaction. So as we can see, it's obvious, no, na yung cobalt from 0, it become positive 2, yung oxidation number. And then yung iron from positive 2, naging 0 naman siya. So, it's evident that cobalt has undergone oxidation. So, yung atin pong nasa anode is basically yung cobalt. And then we have yung cobalt 10 2 plus as aqueous. To balance the charge, we add 2 electrons here. And then yung sa cathode naman natin is simply yung iron, which is Fe2 plus aqueous. And then we also add 2 electrons para mag-balance yung charge kasi sa kabila is yung Fe na solid. If you would look at again on the table of standard reduction potentials, we will see na yung mga standard reduction potentials nito is for the anode is negative 28, 0.28 volts. Tapos yung para naman sa iron is negative 0.44 volts. Which, if we now can solve, yung ating E cell is equal to, so cathode minus anode, so that's negative 0.44 volts minus negative 0.28 volts, and we get negative 0.16 volts. Okay, so ito yung ating standard cell potential. Next, now that we have the standard cell potential, we can now solve for the cell potential. So E is equal to E super 0 minus 0.0257 volts divided by N, ln of Q. Ayan yung equation natin. And na-solve na natin in this case, dalawa lang yung kasama, yung Q natin. Yung Q natin will be expressed as products over reactants. So that's going to be concentration of cobalt 2 plus over the concentration naman ng iron. Okay, so ganyan yung magiging Q natin. So from there, we can solve E. So we have E is equal to negative 0.0257 volts over N, ln of yung concentration ng cobalt 2 plus over yung concentration ng Fe2 plus. So yung ating E, standard cell potential ay negative 16, 0.16 volts. So negative 0.16 volts minus 0.0257 volts over dalawang electrons ang nagamit for every reaction. So that's our N will be 2. And then we carry out yung concentration uh, ng cobalt. Concentration ng cobalt ay 0.15, iron ay 0.68 molar. So that is 0.15 and 0.68. Okay? So if we will just evaluate this first, you should be able to get positive 0.019 volts. And then combining the two, then our cell potential is equal to negative 0.14 volts. So, since our E is negative, therefore, this reaction is not spontaneous in the direction written. So, anong ibig sabihin yan, class? Sabihin po, itong reaction na to will not happen in this direction, na left to right. It's not spontaneously going to happen. So para maging spontaneous siya na mangyari, then we'll have to input electrical energy dito. And that will be, hindi na siya galvanic cell, but rather it will be an electrolytic cell because you'll have to input an electricity or electrical energy doon sa mismong system mo. Para itong non-spontaneous process na to ay mag-proceed. Okay? So yeah. Next. Now, let's have another example. So sabi dito, meron in a certain experiment, the EMF or yung E of the cell is found to be the EMF of the cell is found to be 0.54 volts at 25 degrees Celsius. Suppose that zinc 2 plus has a concentration of 1 molar and the partial pressure of hydrogen gas is equal to 1 atmosphere. Calculate the molar concentration of H plus. So as you can see, ang pinapahanap sa atin ay yung mismong concentration ng H plus. Ang binigay sa atin, concentration lang ng zinc 2 plus at saka ng yung pressure ng hydrogen gas. So, since binigay naman sa atin, since binigay naman na sa atin yung EMF of the cell, we can use the Nernst equation to solve for the concentration ng H plus. We can we can use this and we can see from this image itself na yung ating electrode, yung ating electrode dito ay zinc. So therefore, si zinc dito dahil siya yung anode, siya yung nag-undergo ng oxidation. So if we are going to write an equation dito sa anode, then that's going to be zinc na solid, and then you have zinc 2 plus, and then 2 electrons yung na-release. Consequently, makita natin na yung ginamit din dito na electrode ay platinum, and this is basically yung She, yung standard hydrogen electrode. Alam natin na yung reduction potential nito ay 0 volts. Diba? So from here, kita natin, mayroon kang 2 electrons na nag-receive, na na-release sa zinc. So ganun din dapat yung electrons na na-absorb ng hydrogen para ma-release yung hydrogen gas. So note that 2 electrons are transferred per mole of the reaction. So ibig sabihin po, yung N natin dito is equal to 2. Okay. So now that we were given naman yung concentration at saka yung pressure, so this means that we can now use yung equation on the Nernst equation. So yung Nernst equation natin, recall ulit, that is E is equal to E of the cell minus 0.0257 volts over N times ln of Q. Okay? So, pagka inalala natin, oh, if we create an equation para naman dito sa She, that would mean kung oxidation ito, reduction yung kay um, She. So that's going to be H plus ilang electrons yan, and then you'll have hydrogen gas. So maglalagay tayo ng 2 dito, and that's also 2 electrons. So ang ating mga products and reactants dito, ang reactants natin, this is gas. This is aqueous. And this is also aqueous. So yung ating Q will have an expression of reactants ito, ay products ito, product din to. So that's going to be zinc 2 plus times the pressure of hydrogen gas divided by yung concentration naman ng H plus squared. Bakit squared? Kasi nga, ang coefficient ni H plus dito ay 2. So that's going to be our Q. So applying this in our Nernst equation, we'll have E is equal to E super 0 minus 0.0257 volts over N, ln of concentration of zinc 2 plus times yung pressure ng hydrogen gas divided by yung concentration ng H plus squared. Okay? So yeah. Now, sinabi rin dito, no, sa problem na yung E nung cell, yung EMF ay 0.54 volts. And from the image itself, yung ating nababasa sa voltmeter, 'di ba? Remember, ito po yung standard cell potential. So yan yung E super zero natin. So yung ating E, yung EMF lang, hindi standard, ay 0.54 volts. So 0.54 volts. And then yung sa ating standard cell potential, the one that is shown in the voltmeter, is 0.76 volts. Minus, so yung 0.0257 volts, over ang N natin ay 2 kasi dalawang electrons nga. And then yung Ln natin, yung concentration ng zinc ay 1 molar. Yung pressure naman, no, yung pressure naman ng hydrogen gas is 1 atmosphere. And then yung atin namang hydrogen, yun yung hinahanap natin as unknown. Okay? If we will be transposing this value on the other side, we will get negative 0.22 volts. And we are left with negative 0.0257 volts over 2 ln of 1 over H plus squared. Kasi 1 lang naman yung product nitong dalawa. Diba na nasa taas. So that's 1 over H plus squared. Okay? So next, if we will be now doing this, if we will be evaluating this and we transfer it on the other side, you should be able to get 17.1. Okay? You should be able to get 17.1, and that's equal to ln of 1 over H plus squared. Okay? To eradicate, let's continue this. So you have 17.1 is equal to ln of 1 over H plus squared. So to get rid of the ln, we transmute it to the other side. So that's E raised to 17.1 is equal to 1 over H plus squared. Po. Then, we inverse to get H plus squared is equal to 1 over E raised to 17.1. Ganyan po. Paano natin ginawa yan? After that, H plus is equal to the square root of 1 over e to the 17.1 is equal to 3 times 10 raised to 7. So, ilagay natin dito. E to the 17.1 is equal to 3 times 10 raised to 7. So, from here, we take the square root and we get the concentration of H plus to be 2 times 10 raised to negative 4 molar. So this is the concentration of hydrogen ion in this reaction. Okay, so medyo complicated ito pagdating sa dami ng dapat gawin. Okay, so next. So yun po kung paano natin ina-apply ang ah, paano natin kinukuha ang cell potential kapag hindi standard yung condition. So the two examples shown allowed us to use the Nernst equation in which is used to relate yung electromotive force with the concentration and equilibrium constant or the reaction quotient on in non-standard conditions. Okay? So now, let's stop briefly for in solving and let's just be familiar with batteries. Okay, so this is the second part of today's lesson. So battery, no, is a galvanic cell or basically a series of combined galvanic cells that can be used as a source of direct electric current at a constant voltage. So a battery has the advantage of being self-contained and requiring no auxiliary components such as salt bridges. Kasi yung galvanic cell natin, may salt bridges. Yung mga batteries, wala pong salt bridges yan. Self-contained sila and they can run in more longer periods than a galvanic cell. At hindi na natin ito kailangan na i-connect pa sa mga circuitry because on its own, it's capable of producing a direct electric current. Okay? So, yeah. So, marami tayong examples ng batteries. And I have listed here some examples of batteries and where we can find them. So, yung una is yung dry cell battery. So, as we can see, the dry cell battery has a graphite cathode and then zinc yung anode niya. Okay, ganun yung kanya naging arrangement. It is also known as the Leclanche cell and is usually used in flashlights and then transistor radios. Yung electrolytes nito ay naglalaman ng yung suitable electrolytes ay naglalaman ng ammonium chloride at saka ng zinc chloride that are dissolved in water. Tapos dinadagdagan ito ng starch para mag-thicken yung solution to a paste. No, like consistency that is less likely to leak. No, kaya nilalagyan siya ng starch para it will be combined together into a paste na hindi po nagli-leak out of the battery. Okay? So yun po ang laman ng moist paste that surrounds your graphite cathode and then your zinc anode. So that's the dry cell battery. So yung reaction na nangyayari sa loob ng dry cell battery, yung anode mo, so dahil siya yung anode, yung zinc, siya yung na-oxidize and nako-consume after some time. And then yung cathode mo naman is composed of, yung cathode mo naman is composed of graphite, kung saan yung reaction ng manganese dioxide at saka ng ammonium ion, yung nangyayari. Okay? And the voltage that is produced by a dry cell is constantly 1.5 volts. Okay? So that's the voltage that is produced by the dry cell battery, 1.5 volts. The next type of battery is the mercury battery. No, yung mga mercury battery, it's usually used in medicine and electronic industries. No, contained ito sa isang stainless steel chamber or cylinder, yun yung cathode, which serves as cathode. And then yung zinc naman, which is amalgamated with mercury din, is in contact with a strong alkaline electrolyte. Yun po yung anode natin. So as we can see, yung electrolyte solution contains strong alkaline solution tulad ng KOH at saka may paste ito ng zinc oxide saka ng zinc hydroxide at saka mercury oxide. So ang mga mercury batteries provide a more constant voltage of 1.34 volts kesa doon sa Leclanche cell. No, yung kanina, yung dry cell battery. No, it has a considerably higher capacity and longer life, kaya mas ginagamit ito sa pacemakers, sa hearing aids, even sa mga electric watches na kailangan ng battery, at saka yung mga light meters. So yung mga batteries na nakikita natin na nilalagay sa mga relo, ito pong mga batteries na to ay mercury batteries. At sa loob niyan, yung anode, ang nangyayaring reaction is yung zinc na amalgamated with mercury, and then it reacts with your hydroxide, which is found on doon sa strong electrolyte solution, no, to produce itong zinc oxide, and then there's a release of electron. And then yung isa pa na paste, no, yung mercury oxide will also be reduced to form naman ng liquid mercury. So yan po yung reaction na nangyayari naman sa mercury battery. After the mercury battery, we have the lead acid battery. Ito nga po yung mga batteries na madalas natin makita sa mga vehicles, sa mga automotive batteries. So the lead acid battery is actually a 12-volt lead acid, a 12-volt battery, which is a composed of 6 voltaic cells na naka-arrange in series. Bawat voltaic cell na meron sa loob ng lead acid battery ay nagpo-produce ng constant 2 volts. No, constant voltage na 2 volts. So ang cathode po dito is lead dioxide, no, na nakapack po doon sa packed on a lead grid. No, yun yung mga cathode natin, the gray ones, no, as you can see. Then yung anode of each cell is lead, no, pure lead naman ito. No, so as we can see, both electrodes are immersed naman in sulfuric acid. Kaya hindi po actually maganda na basta-bastang binubuksan yung mga batteries na nakukuha natin sa mga motor, sa mga kotse. Kasi yan po ay naglalaman ng sulfuric acid, a very strong acid that can easily tawag dito, corrode or cause harm on the skin of humans. So the negative plates, lead grills filled with spongy lead, and then yung positive plates naman ay filled with lead oxide. So kung titignan natin, ito yung nangyayaring reaction, and each of the galvanic cell na meron sa loob ay nagpo-produce ng 2.041 volts to be exact. So kaya katulad ng hindi katulad ng Leclanche cell, no, yung mga dry cell natin, dry cell batteries at saka mercury batteries, hindi po rechargeable itong mga Leclanche at saka mercury. Pero yung lead storage battery or lead acid battery, they are rechargeable. Okay, ibig sabihin, kapag yung atin pong anode ay na-consume na, which is composed of lead, no? Kung yung atin pong mga anode ay na-consume na, we can recharge this to reverse the direction of these reactions, no? Mare-reverse yung direction ng mga reactions na to by placing in an electric field dito para maging spontaneous yung reverse process. No? At pag naging spontaneous yung reverse process, yung, yung reaction sa anode nyo, yun na ngayon yung magiging reaction sa cathode. At yung reaction sa cathode, yun naman ang magiging reaction sa anode. That is if we are to charge the lead acid battery. Pero on its own, hanggat ito ay hindi pa nako-consume lahat ng lead, no, hindi pa na-oxidize lahat ng lead, patuloy lang ito magpo-produce ng exact na 2.041 volts. And dahil may 6 na ganito sa loob ng isang lead acid battery, the entire lead storage battery will produce 12 volts, which is enough to power up a car and other automobile and automotive vehicles. Okay, so that's the lead acid battery. And ito na nga, ito yung sinasabi ko na magre-reverse yung direction ng reaction kapag ka-charge na natin yung battery. No, it means we reverse the normal electrochemical reaction by applying an external voltage, no, at the cathode. So mapansin nyo, yung nasa yung nasa anode, yung nasa anode natin, cathode natin, yung nasa cathode, yung nasa taas, at ito yung nasa anode, are the exact opposites of the reactions na nandito kanina. Okay? Which will prove na when we charge, we drive a non-spontaneous process to become spontaneous. Okay? So yan po yun. Next, lithium-ion battery. Second to the last na battery. So as you can see, ito yung madalas nating makita sa ating mga phones and other electronic gadgets. So the anode in a lithium-ion battery is made of a conducting carbonaceous material. At ano yon? Kadalasan ito po ay graphite. One of the allotropes of carbon, which is purely made of carbon, which has tiny spaces in its structure that can hold both lithium ions and lithium ions and lithium atoms. So the cathode naman, on the other hand, is made of a transition metal oxide such as a cobalt oxide, which can also hold lithium ions. So if we will analyze yung itsura ng isang lithium ion, ito po yung ating anode at itong nakikita natin na parang ganitong plates, yan po yung ating graphite. Graphite can hold both lithium ion, lithium atom at saka lithium ions. Ganon din po, on the other hand, sa kabilang side naman, ang atin naman pong cathode ay made of a metal oxide. So sabi dito itong MO2. This MO2 is methyl oxide. MO2 is metal oxide. And metal oxides are also capable of holding lithium ions. And ganun pa rin, electrons migrate from the anode going to your cathode. Okay? So, ganun po ang flow pa rin ng electrons natin pagdating dito. Lithium-ion batteries, ito po yung nangyayaring reaction. So, dahil si anode ay hindi naman si graphite. Graphite is called as a electrocatalyst. No? So, si graphite ay hinuhold niya lang yung mga lithiums mo para habang nag-undergo ng oxidation. No? So si lithium na-oxidize, nawawalan siya ng electron. Tapos yung electron will migrate towards the cathode and then it will reduce naman yung lithium ions mo forming a complex of lithium cobalt oxide. So the advantage ng batteries ng lithium is that si lithium, if you would remember sa standard reduction potential table natin, siya yung most negative. No? Siya yung most negative. This means na siya yung isa sa mga mahihirap na i-reduce. No? Siya yung pinakamahihirap na i-reduce. So in this case, at isa pa dito, napakagaan ng lithium. It will only need 6.941 grams ng lithium para mag-produce ng 1 mole of electrons. Kaya lithium ion ang madalas na ginagamit sa mga batteries natin sa mga phone kasi napakagaan nito and it can produce a steady stream of 1 mole of electrons. So lithium ion battery can be recharged literally hundreds of times without deterioration. These desirable characteristics will make it suitable sa cellular phones, digital cameras, at saka sa mga laptop computers. Okay, yan po. Last but not the least, in terms of the batteries, we have the hydrogen-oxygen fuel cell or more specifically, pwede tawagin natin ito as a fuel cell. Ang mga fuel cell, ito yung galvanic cells na nagre-require ng continuous supply ng reactants. So, ibig sabihin, at a certain point of time, mauubos yung reactants na meron sa loob ng isang fuel cell. So, in a specific example, in a hydrogen-oxygen fuel cell, ang consists of an electrolyte solution at ang laman nito electrolyte solution na to is usually potassium hydroxide solution at dalawang inert electrodes. Pag sinabi mo nating inert electrode, ito yung mga electrodes na hindi nagre-react with the electrolyte that they are being submerged to. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng inert. So for this example, as we can see, this is an example of a hydrogen-oxygen fuel cell. Yung anode mo, mayroong binabubble out sa kanya, bubble in sa kanya na hydrogen gas. At yung hydrogen gas ang na-oxidize, forming water. And then on the other hand, yung cathode mo naman, may binabubble in naman sa kanya na oxygen gas in a hot KOH solution. And then yung oxygen naman yung nag-undergo ng reduction at nabubuo yung hydroxide ion. So yung hydrogen fuel cell is usually used in space exploration programs. Kasi yung napoproduce dito, yung overall reaction na napoproduce, in this case, mayroong water molecule. At yung water molecule dito ay pure water. So kaya siya ginagamit sa space exploration program kasi ito po ay yung pure water dito ay na pwedeng inumin or pwedeng makonsume ng mga astronauts. So hindi lang nito pinapower yung mga electronics na meron sa loob ng isang spacecraft, but it also produces water na nakakatulong din sa mga astronauts when they travel long distances in space. Okay, so those are for the hydrogen and oxygen fuel cells. Okay, so next, second to the last part ng lesson na to would be corrosion. So nakita natin paano nagwo-work ang redox reaction sa mga batteries. Now let's look at paano naman nagwo-work ang redox reaction or electrochemical processes sa environment. No, and one evidence ng electrochemical process na nangyari sa paligid natin is corrosion. So corrosion is defined as the degradation of metals by chemical reactions with the environment. So generally, corrosion involves a slow combination of oxygen with metals. Now, slow combination of oxygen with metals to form oxides. So may tatlong klase ng corrosion. Yung uniform corrosion, tulad nitong nasa image, meaning yung buong slab ng metal nag-corrode ng sabay. Galvanic corrosion naman is when two metals contact with each other in the presence of a appropriate electrolyte. Ito po yung parang ginagamit sa paglilinis ng mga pure silver saka pure gold na mga jewelry na fill ng dust, ng particles, and even ng rust. No? Kapag naiwanan sila ng magkadikit pa rin, mayroon pong tinatawag na galvanic corrosion. Si crevice corrosion naman, ito yung klase ng corrosion na kapag may dalawang metal na nagtatouch sa isa't isa, yung mayroong naiiwang gap in between them. No, unless ito ay kinover ng coating o ng paint. No? Pero pag hindi po ito kinover ng paint, yung gap na yon or yung crevice na yon, doon sa part na yun madalas, ang metals ay magko-corrode. Tulad po nitong nasa image na to. This is a metal, this is also a metal, and then in between those two is a gap, and from that gap, kapag ka merong enough moisture, pwede pong magkaroon ng corrosion. And we call that a crevice corrosion. Okay? Crevice corrosion din po yung sa mga screwdrivers or sa pati sa nails na ipinako po sa iba pang bakal. Dahil may gap in between those two metals, meron pong posibleng corrosion na mangyari doon, and that is a crevice corrosion. Okay? So we will look at the mechanism of corrosion. So paano ba nagsisimula ang corrosion? So madalas, of course, nagkakaroon ng corrosion kapag may presence ng iron. At ang madalas po na nagko-corrode ay yung mga steel. No, yung steel has a non-uniform surface because of its chemical composition. Hindi ito completely homogeneous ang steel. No? And also, physical strains leave stress points in the metal. Halimbawa, nabangga siya, nagkaroon ng dent doon sa bakal or sa steel. So yung dent na yon is possible na mag-caught up yon ng isang water droplet o kaya ng isang moisture, or maka-caught up yun with moisture, meaning water. Itong uniformities na ito, non-uniformities na ito, will cause areas where the iron is more easily oxidized. No, so itong crevice na ito, nakita natin, yan po yung result ng physical strain. And kapag ito ay napatakan ng water, no, or pag lagi nababasa ito, it will serve as an anodic area. Sa anodic area, yung iron na meron sa steel dissolves. Natutunaw siya doon sa water droplet, forming yung Fe2 plus ions. No? Andito, nangyayari yung anode reaction, which is basically oxidation. No? So, yung iron, which is in steel, oxidizes to form Fe2 plus and then releases electrons. Okay? And then eventually, yung Fe2 plus ions mo will make its way to what we call as the cathodic area. Dito rin kasi papunta yung mga electrons mo. And from there, if Fe2 plus reacts with oxygen gas in the air, nabubuo yung rust na tinatawag natin, which is mainly composed of Fe2O3 or yung ferrous oxide na tinatawag na, ferric oxide natin, which is one of the main components ng rust. So remember, yung mga crevices o itong mga stress points na to become anodic areas if they usually get wet. And then nade-dissolve yung iron dito, nade-dissolve siya in a way na nade-dissolve tas na-oxidize siya at the same time. Nafo-form yung Fe2+, Fe2+ goes into the cathodic area, and then kasi siya ay positively charged, no? Positively charged yung ion na to. So it migrates toward your cathode. No? Remember, yung anions natin goes towards anode, cations goes towards cathode. So dahil positively charged ion siya, it goes towards the cathode area or the cathodic area, and there it reacts with oxygen gas. When it reacts with oxygen gas, it forms your rust. So paano natin pipigilan ang corrosion? So marami pong paraan. No? Ang isa sa pinakamadaling paraan para protektahan ang mga metals sa corrosion is by applying a coating. No? Usually, nagdadagdag tayo ng paint or even metal plating. Now, this protects the metal from oxygen and moisture. No? Kaya tayo nagpipintura at tinalagyan natin ng metal plating para yung most vulnerable parts sa corrosion ay natatakpan. Okay? Anong examples ng mga metal plating? So, chromium and tin, for example, ay madalas na ginagamit para i-plate yung steel. Bakit? Kasi ang chromium and tin oxidize to form a durable, effective oxide coating. So, pag na-oxidize si chromium at saka si tin, no, nagfo-form sila ng oxide, na itong oxide na to is durable and effective in protecting steel. Pwede rin pong zinc in the process of what we call galvanization or galvanizing. Kino-coat natin yung steel with melted, no, liquefied zinc. And then when zinc is being oxidized, okay, a mixed oxide and carbonate coating. Nagfo-form ito ng oxide and carbonate coating which protects yung steel from oxidation. And then any oxidation that occurs dissolves zinc instead of iron na meron doon sa steel mo. So para mapigilan na si iron ay ma-oxidize and ma-form yung rust, tinatawag natin si zinc as a sacrificial metal. Pati si zinc, siya muna yung i-oxidize na lang kesa ma-oxidize yung iron. So, the other example then is alloying. Alloying is used to prevent corrosion. Stainless steel contains chromium and nickel. Di ba steel is mainly iron and then carbon yan eh. Yan ang steel. So if you create stainless steel, it is usually contains chromium and nickel, both of which form oxide coatings that change steel's reduction potential. No? Binabago niya yung reduction potential ng steel para hindi siya agad-agad ma-oxidize. No? Kaya ang mga stainless steel natin, after long periods of time, kahit ilang beses mabasa, kahit ilang beses na ma-expose sa oxygen, hindi basta-basta nag-corrode. No? Hindi siya basta-basta nangangalawang. Because of the miracle that chromium and nickel provides. Okay. A new technology is being developed to create surface alloys. So instead of forming a metal alloy such as stainless steel, gumagamit ng mas murang carbon steel. And ito ay treated with ion bombardment para makapag-produce ng thin layer of stainless steel and other desirable alloy on the surface. Kasi medyo expensive yung process ng stainless steel. So para less expensive, gagamit lang ng carbon steel, meaning mataas ang carbon content ng steel na to, and then ito ay ion bombard para makaproduce ng thin layer ng stainless steel within the carbon steel. So yan po yung alloying. And then the last method that we can do is what we call as the cathodic protection. Cathodic protection is a method used, often employed to protect steel in buried fuel tanks and pipelines. So ang gagawin mo, may active metal ka tulad ng magnesium, connected ito sa isang wire to the pipeline or tank na dapat protektahan. Bakit magnesium? Si magnesium po kasi is a much better reducing agent kesa kay iron. Ibig sabihin mas active si magnesium kesa kay iron. So yung electrons na na-generate, electrons are generated by magnesium rather than by iron. Instead na si iron yung mag-oxidize in reaction with oxygen and moisture, si magnesium na lang yung mag-oxidize. So in this process, si magnesium ang tinatawag po natin na anodic sacrifice. Kasi ang corrosion naman is basically oxidation. Ang oxidation saan ba nangyayari? Sa anode. So kaya nagko-corrode si iron because iron works as an anode. So by using cathodic protection, instead na si iron yung mag-undergo ng oxidation, si magnesium na lang. Kasi si magnesium ay mas active na metal kaysa kay iron. So ito yung example, ng isang cathodic protection. Kung makikita natin, ito yung iron storage tank na gusto natin protektahan. So ang ginagawa, kinoconnect itong iron storage tank with magnesium using an electrical wire. Ang sa ganon, instead na si iron yung mag mag serve as an anode, instead of iron serving as an anode, si magnesium na lang ang magsaserve as an anode and siya yung ma-oxidize and then ang marireduce naman ay si oxygen. So ang nangyayari dito, class, sinasakripisyo si magnesium para hindi mangalawang si iron. Problema lang dito, class, from time to time, nauubos din yung magnesium. Kaya dapat, papalitan din ito, i-replenish ito ng panibagong magnesium metal para tuloy-tuloy na hindi mangalawang yung iron storage tank. Okay? So that is the cathodic protection. Okay? So yeah. Now, we are now down to the last part of this lesson ng electrochemistry. So, previously, ang tinignan lang natin, puro galvanic cells. Hindi pa natin tinignan kung ano ba ang electrolytic cell. Kasi di ba may dalawang klase ng cell, ng electrochemical cell. Yung galvanic cell or voltaic cell at saka yung electrolytic cell. So, usually, ang difference lang nito, yung process. Si electrolytic cell, aparato siya na nagki-carry out ng electrolysis. So what is electrolysis? Ito yung process na yung electrical energy ay ginagamit mo para to cause a non-spontaneous reaction to occur. On its own, a non-spontaneous reaction will not happen on its own. So para mapilit mo ang isang non-spontaneous process na mag-occur, you'll have to input electrical energy. And that process of inputting electrical energy to drive a non-spontaneous chemical reaction to occur is what we call as an electrolysis. Okay? So it's what we call as an electrolysis. So this figure shows us the difference between a galvanic and an electrochemical electrolytic cell. No, so makita natin si A is a galvanic cell. Notice na yung direction ng electrons ay papunta from anode to cathode. Okay? Now, if we want to reverse the direction of this, meaning gusto natin na instead of si zinc yung anode natin at si copper yung cathode natin, dapat mag-input tayo ng energy doon sa buong system natin and this produces, this reverses the reaction. Pansinin ninyo, nung una, yung cations papunta dito, sa galvanic cell, pero sa electrolytic cell, pabalik na sila doon sa zinc mo as cathode naman. Okay, so that is your electrolytic cell and galvanic cell difference. So, ano yung quantitative basis or quantitative aspects ng electrolysis? So, medyo meron tayong mga dapat i-solve dito. So, una, we'll have to remember na ang electrolytic cells ay first observed by Faraday. At meron siyang law. Tinawag niya tong law na to, the Faraday's law. Anong sinasabi ng Faraday law? The amount of substance na meron na nag-undergo ng isang reaction sa isang electrode during electrolysis, directly proportional daw yun sa dami ng electricity na napoproduce ng isang electrolytic cell. So, 1 Faraday or a Faraday is the amount of electricity that reduces one equivalent of a species at the cathode and oxidizes one equivalent of a species at the anode naman. So, gaano kadaming electricity ang kailangan para yung isang substance or species ay ma-reduce sa cathode at gaano kadaming amount of electricity naman ang kailangan para yung isang species ay ma-oxidize naman sa anode. So, that is said to be 1 Faraday. So, in honor of Faraday, the one who first illustrated itong ganitong um, relationship ng amount of substance with the amount of electricity that passes through the electrolytic cell. So because of this, meron tayong mga sumusunod na relationships. So in an electrolysis experiment, we generally measure the current. Ang unit ng current ay amperes. And this current passes through an electrolytic cell in a given period of time. And time is measured in seconds. So the relationship between the charge, which is in coulombs, and current is equal to 1C or 1 coulomb is equal to 1 ampere times 1 second. So therefore, a coulomb is the quantity of electrical charge passing any point in the circuit in 1 second when the current is said to be 1 ampere. Okay? So, si electric charge, symbolized as Q, ito ay measured in coulombs, and coulomb is equal to 1 ampere times 1 second. So yung magnitude of Q per electron is 1.602 times 10 raised to negative 19 coulomb. And then yung magnitude naman ng Q per mole is equal to the Faraday's constant. At doon po natin nakuha yung 96,500 na coulombs na ginamit natin kanina kasi masyadong malaki kung ang Faraday's constant ay kukunin natin as a different value. So the Faraday's constant will have a value of 96,500 coulombs. Okay, so that's the electric charge. Then, sa electric charge din po, Q, may also be calculated by getting the product between the number of moles ng electrons na na-transfer in a redox reaction times the Faraday constant. Through this equation, Q is equal to N times F. Okay, so that's how we can also get yung electric charge. Next, sa electric current naman is basically defined as the quantity of charge flowing each second through a circuit. So ang SI unit ng current ay ampere, symbolized with capital letter A. So 1 ampere is equal to the charge of 1 coulomb flowing in 1 second. We can calculate the electric current through this equation. I is equal to Q over T, where T is time in seconds, and 1 mole of electrons is equal to 96,500 coulombs, or equal to the Faraday's constant. Okay, so please remember these relationships and equations. So, to illustrate, let's show this problem. So, ang sabi, the electrodeposition of copper is can be used to determine the copper content of a sample. The sample is dissolved to produce copper 2 plus ions, which is electrolyzed. Okay. At the cathode, the reduction half reaction is copper 2 plus aqueous plus 2 electrons, yielding to solid copper. What mass of copper can be deposited in 1 hour by a current of 1.62 amperes. So that's the question. So the first thing na makita natin dito, we were given the current, which is equal to 1.62 amperes. We were given also time, which is equal to 1.00 hours. And we are also given, of course, yung Faraday's constant. Alam natin that that is 96,500 coulombs per mole of electron. So ito yung mga given natin. And the equations that we will be using, since meron tayong I and T, we can simplify itong equation na to, and we'll have Q is equal to I times T. And we can now solve directly if our current is 1.62 amperes. And then we multiply this kasi remember, time should be in seconds and we were given in hours. So we need to convert yung time natin. Now, if we have 1 hour, then in 1 hour, that is 3,600 seconds. So we cancel yung unit ng hour. Then we should be able to get Q is equal to 5,832 ampere per second, or simply 5,832 coulombs. So ito yung electric charge natin. Okay? That um that we can use. So because of this, dahil meron na tayong Q, we can now use yung equation natin kanina na Q is equal to NF. Q is equal to NF. And if we will be looking at our equation, yung number of electrons na meron tayo ay 2. So yung N natin dito is also 2. So if we will be using yung equation na natin ng Q is equal to NF, then kasi yung N ay number of moles, we can use it, we can use it para maging mag-mole ratio na kada isang mole ng copper na solid, may dalawang electrons na nagagamit para ma-reduce yung copper 2+. So may mole ratio tayo na for 1 mole of copper that is equivalent to 2 moles of electrons. So from there, we rearrange N is equal to F over Q. And then our F, so yung na-calculate natin kanina, so we can see we have 5,000, Q over F pala, rather. So that's Q over F. So yung na-solve natin is Q is equal to 5,832 coulombs divided by our Faraday's constant is 96,500 coulombs per mole of electrons. Then we multiply this dun sa mole ratio na 1 mole ng copper ay may 2 moles ng electrons. And since we are being asked of the mass ng copper, so we'll need to use yung atomic mass ng copper na for every 1 mole of copper, meron tayong 63.55 grams of copper. Saan ko nakuha yan? Ito po, i-label ko na lang. This is mole ratio from the reaction. Tapos ito naman ay yung atomic mass or molar mass of copper. Okay? So, from there, napalabas natin yung unit na grams. So, we cancel yung moles of electrons, cancel din yung moles of copper, and then cancel yung coulombs. So, natirang unit natin ay yung mass ng coulomb. So, the mass of, ay yung mass ng copper. So, yung mass of copper is equal to 1.92 grams of copper. So, this is the mass of copper that is being used as an anode in the electrodeposition of copper. So as a cathode in the electrodeposition. So Gaano daw kadami ng copper ang madedeposit doon sa cathode mo in 1 hour? So, ang sagot natin, 1.92 grams ng copper ang madedeposit doon sa electrode mo ng copper after 1 hour. Okay? So let's show another problem. Another problem says that we have a coulometer, a device for measuring a quantity of electric charge. Now, in a silver coulometer, silver ions is reduced to solid silver at a platinum cathode. If 1.206 grams of silver is deposited in 1,412 seconds by a certain quantity of electricity, ang tanong sa atin, how much electric charge in coulombs must have passed? Ilan yung dumaan na electric charge? And letter B, what was the magnitude in amperes of the electric current? So kabaliktaran ito nung ginawa natin kanina. No? Kanina, we are asked to find for the mass. Ngayon, ang pinapahanap sa atin, yung electric charge at saka yung electric current. So take note na ang mga binigay sa atin ay yung mass ng silver, which is 1.206 grams. Pati yung time it takes para yung 1.206 grams ay ma-deposit, it takes 1,412 seconds. Right? So from here, the first thing that we'll have to find is again Q. And that is through the use of Q is equal to NF. Q, no, yung N natin, which is the amount, which we can use dun sa N, that will be 1.206 grams ng silver. Then, in 1 mole of silver, yung atomic mass po ng silver ay 107.87 grams. Ayun yung atomic mass niya. And from positive 1 to 0, yung kanyang formal charge, that means ito ay nag-gain ng isang electron. So, ibig sabihin, kada isang mole ng electron, yan yung lumabas sa isang mole naman ng silver. Okay? So, we use this. Yan. Tapos, next is we multiply this by, for every 1 mole ng electron, we use the Faraday's constant and that's 96,500 coulombs. This should give you as your electric charge equal to 1,079 coulombs. So this is Q. And it doesn't stop there. Kasi kaya natin kinuha si Q dahil kailangan natin ang Q sa pagsosolve ng electric current. So because of this, we will also use for the electric current, no? So Q, we remember yung equation natin, no? I is equal to QT. I is equal to Q over T, where T is time. And this is, yung Q natin is said to be 1,079. So 1,079. And alam natin naman na ang coulomb ay equal to ampere per time second. So this is, we can write it as amperes times second. And then we divide it by the total amount of time na binigay sa atin sa problem, which is 1,412 seconds. And the current that has passed through in 1,412 seconds should be equal to 0.7642 amperes. So cancel yung seconds, amperes ang natira. So that's how we can find yung electric current through this problem. So it's important, class, na dapat unahin lagi gamitin, hanapin si Q, and then after hanapin si Q, you can use it to look for the electric current. Okay? Next. Now, what if meron namang we are asked to find yung mga amounts ng substances na na-reduce at saka na-oxidize in electrolysis. So meron tayong general step. So yung mga general steps natin, first, if you have current and time, you get the product of the current and time so that you get the charge, the electric charge in coulombs. And then the electric charge in coulomb, so that you get the number of moles of electrons, you divide using the Faraday's constant. Now remember na si Faraday's constant ay 96,500 coulomb per mole of electrons. Yan yung unit niya. And from there, you get the moles of the electrons. Then you use the mole ratio of the half cell reaction. Ibig sabihin yan, for every species, let's say for example, copper 2 plus, no? 2 electrons, and then this is copper. For every species, no, for every 1 mole of copper, then that's equivalent to 2 moles of electrons. Yan po yung mole ratio na sinasabi. Then by doing so, you get the moles of the substance that is reduced or oxidized. Para makuha mo yung grams, you just use the molar mass. Or if you're being asked to find the volume, then you can use the ideal gas equation, which is PV is equal to nRT. Kasi may N ka na, then you can find for V. And then yung R naman natin ay gas constant, temperature is also given as well as the pressure. Okay? So yan. So, to illustrate yung usefulness nitong ganitong process, let's show two problems. And this is going to be the last two problems of this lesson. So first, sabi, a current of 1.26 amperes, a current of 1.26 amperes is passed through an electrolytic cell containing a dilute sulfuric acid solution for 7.44 hours. Okay? We are asked to calculate the volume of gases generated at STP, standard temperature and pressure. The half cell for the reactions in the process are, binigay sa atin, yung sa anode, you have yung oxidation ng water, and then sa cathode naman is yung reduction ng hydrogen ion. Okay? So, first, the first thing that we have to do is to calculate the number of coulombs of electricity that passes through the cell. So, kailangan natin yung coulomb or the electric charge. We can do that by, yung ating equation kanina, na to get the charge, we just need the current, no, yung ampere, yung current natin, times the time in seconds. So we have 1.26 ampere from the problem. Then we multiply this to 7.44 hours. And since ang unit natin ng time ay dapat in seconds, we know that in 1 hour, there is 3,600 seconds. Okay? And then we multiply that for every 1 coulomb, there is 1 ampere per second. Okay? Para mawala yung ampere na unit. So in this case, we can cancel yung hour. And then we are left with seconds and ampere. We can cancel it also because of this conversion factor. And then we get na yung atin pong charge or yung ating electric charge is calculated to be 3.37 times 10 raised to 4 coulomb. So this is our Q or yung electric charge natin. Okay? After na makuha natin yung electric charge, we can now solve for the number of moles. So for every 3.37 times 10 raised to 4 coulomb, we use the Faraday constant na in 1 mole of electron, that is 96,500 coulombs. And this should give us 0.349 moles of electrons. Okay? And based sa ating half cell reaction, mayroong 4 na electrons na nagamit. So 2 times 2 is 4. So there are 4 electrons. Therefore, the number of moles of oxygen that can be generated from that is we have 0.349 moles of electron. Kada 1 mole ng oxygen, based dito sa half cell reaction na ito, kada 1 mole ng oxygen may 4 na electrons. So yung mole ratio natin is 4 moles of electrons. So we cancel the units and we get 0.0873 moles of oxygen. And since we are being asked to find the volume ng mga gas na na-generate, ano lang naman yung na-gas na generate dito is oxygen saka hydrogen. We start with oxygen. Yung oxygen natin, as we can see, we use the ideal gas equation of PV is equal to nRT. And since we're looking for the volume, then that's nRT over P. Yung atin pong N is yung na-solve natin. This is volume of oxygen gas. So that is 0.0873 moles times gas constant ay 0.0821 liter atmosphere over Kelvin mole. And then yung temperature natin ay 273 Kelvin. And then we divide this by 1 atmosphere. Kasi yan po yung standard temperature and pressure sa gases. And this should give us a volume of 1.96 liters. So that is the volume of the oxygen gas. Hindi pa tayo tapos. Yung volume naman ng um, yung volume naman ng oxygen ng hydrogen gas, we need to take it also from the problem. No, from the ginawa natin kanina. We were able to calculate already yung Q. No? So we can now use this to calculate for the moles of hydrogen na lumabas. So we write to calculate for the moles of hydrogen, we simply use yung Q, no, times the Faraday constant times yung mole ratio. No, mole ratio. So yung Q na na-calculate natin ay 3.37 times 10 raised to 4 na coulomb times the Faraday constant of 1 mole per 1 mole of electron, that's 96,500 coulombs. And then yung mole ratio, based dito sa half reaction, kada kada 1 mole ng hydrogen gas, kada 1 mole ng hydrogen gas, may dalawang electrons. That's the mole ratio. So we can write na for every 1 mole of electron, you have, for every 2 moles of electron, that's 1 mole of hydrogen gas. So cancel yung unit ng moles electron, cancel yung coulombs. Then we are left with the moles of H2 is equal to 0.175 moles of H2. Now that we have this, we can use again V is equal to nRT over P. And this gives us 0.175 mole times 0.0821 liter atmosphere over mole Kelvin times yung standard temperature, 273 Kelvin, and then yung standard pressure of 1.0 atmosphere. The volume of hydrogen gas should be 3.92 liters. Yan. So see, it's important na makuha muna natin yung Q, yung electric charge, and then maalala natin yung Faraday's constant, which is 96,500 coulombs per mole of electron. And then yung mole ratio naman po ay makikita natin yan sa relationship ng kung ano yung substance na chine-check, ina-analyze natin, along with the number of electrons na meron doon sa half reaction. Okay? So that's how we can utilize itong ganitong steps sa pagkakalculate ng amount of substance to be reduced and oxidized in electrolysis. Okay? So para po makapag-practice kayong maggamitin yung step na ito, I'd like you to answer this problem. This will be assigned as a graded exercise. Okay? So please, ang tanong dito, how long must a current of 5 amperes be applied to a solution of silver ions to produce 10.5 grams of silver metal? So yung approach dyan is halos parehas doon sa kung paano yung ginamit natin sa pagsosolve ng problem kanina. Okay, so remember, you need to get the charge first, then after that, use the necessary mole ratios and the Faraday's constant para makuha natin kung gaano kadami, ano yung time. So, ang hinahanap po dito ay time in seconds. Okay? So, That's it. And these are the references na ginamit ko sa construction ng buong lesson ng electrochemistry. I hope that you were able to understand and also um, enjoy yung applications ng electrochemistry specifically sa batteries at saka ng corrosion. So that's all and God bless sa inyong pag-aaral.